And it's my great pleasure today to introduce our distinguished guest speakers today, and they are going to help us to understand how we are going to help faculty members to prepare for online courses. Okay, and I think that they have a lot of experiences back in College of the Canyons. And with their experiences and their sharing, I hope that we can have a quite precious morning to learn a lot of strategies and a lot of tips to promote online learning. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming them, Joy and Chloe.
So it is our pleasure to be here with all of you. Our College of the Canyons, is in Los Angeles, in California. And we are happy to be here sharing with you, but we also want to learn from you. So if you have questions at any time, please feel free to ask them. We'll also have questions at the end too, but we want this to be a conversation so that we can really make sure we're learning together. So we are happy to share with you. Today's discussion is about sort of designing our online classes for teaching and learning. And we will also be here tomorrow, so we hope you can join us tomorrow to learn some more about maybe what some of those strategies look like when you put them in your classrooms. So we'll get started. So I won't read all the words to you. There are a lot of words on this screen, but just quickly for some learning outcomes, what we hope you all get to take away from our time together this morning is we hope to explain and describe the training approach that we take at our college, and I'll explain Chloe and my roles a bit more in a moment, but we have developed a training support system for our faculty and for our instructors, so we want to explain what that looks like and why we have developed those trainings. We will share with you some good practices that we share with our faculty and that you may consider in your own classes. And then we'll just talk about different approaches and the things we want to be aware of when we're teaching online. Okay? So a little bit about Chloe and me. Again, our college is in Los Angeles, California. And we both are part of the online education department at our college. And we work together. We're a small team. There are a few other team members who were not able to travel here to Taiwan with us. We're a small team, but our role is to support our faculty with designing and creating their online classes. So when a department says we're ready to teach a class online, they come to us and we sit with them to really think through how is it that we want to design these courses so our students succeed. We want our students to learn the material. You want to be successful as a teacher or an instructor. So it's our job to sit with our faculty and help them think through that process. I'll add that Chloe and I we teach for the state of California. So we, much like this, we will teach other faculty members in the state how to design their online teaching. So we work at our college, but then we also teach for the state. And it's a very large state, so we get to work with lots of faculty and lots of teachers. So a little bit quickly about College of the Canyons. We are a community college, and in California, the community college system is the largest system of higher education in our country and also in the world. So our community colleges serve many, many students. Many will earn a degree to transfer to a university. Others will earn credentials to start their careers. And so it's an important starting point for many students when they come to college. So for us, we have been teaching online classes since about 2006, so we're over 20 years just about now. But as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, many more of our classes are online than ever before. So this last semester in spring, about 50%, half of our classes were some form of distance education. And for us, there are many ways to teach distance education courses. This is not just at our college, but for our system. They might have different names, but we have what we call online, which is asynchronous. So the students and the instructors never see each other or talk to each other through Zoom or through Google Meet. It's all through the learning management system. What we call online live, the live is talking through Zoom. So the faculty and the students meet at a certain time online, and they get to talk, and the teacher will teach, and students get to ask questions that way. We have hybrid, which some of the learning is asynchronous. So students will work in their own time, instructors will give assignments through the learning management system, and then there are times where we come together in person like this for some class meetings. And then the last one is high flex. What that means is the instructor is here in person. Students can choose to come in person for the class, or they can join online through Zoom. And we have a lot of those variety of options because for us, it's really important to be flexible for our students. We want to make sure students are learning in the best way for them. For some students, that means being here in person. For some students, they're working, they have families, they cannot come here, but they might need to learn a different way. So our approach to supporting faculty is to really think through and consider how can we be flexible, but how can we ensure quality? And how can we ensure that our faculty are able to best teach in all of those different flexible ways? So we'll share a little bit about our approach to how we do that in the United States, in California. So just quickly about the United States, about half, a little more than half of all university students in the United States will take at least one online or distance education course while they're in university. So that number has really grown, of course, because of the pandemic, but what we're seeing and experiencing as a country is our students want to learn, they want to get their degree and study, and they need to do it in many flexible, different ways. And so we know that more than half of our students will probably meet you at some point, but maybe not in the classroom. They're going to meet you and learn from you in different ways. And in the state of California, it's a little bit less, but about 30% of all students will take at least one university class online. So that means we have to be prepared and we have to think through how do we do this, because our students are needing this and we want to make sure we're providing quality education for them. So our approach first is we start with our learning management system. Some of you might use Moodle. We use Canvas as our learning management system. So our approach for training our faculty is first to make sure that they know how to use the learning management system, because it's new technology for many, and making sure that the faculty know how and feel comfortable using the learning management system is important, because you can't design and build without knowing how to first operate and use the learning management system. So our first step is starting with the learning management system. That also means accessibility. So for us, that is captions on the videos. It's making sure that all students can see and hear and view the material that you put, so we train our faculty. And that's kind of the first step of our training. Our second step, we require certification. So we require that all of our faculty who want to teach online, they have to move through different courses and become certified. They earn a certificate saying, I have mastered these skills and I can do this effectively. That's really important because we want to make sure not only that faculty are prepared, but that they continue to learn. So we have ongoing training so that our faculty can continue to be supported, but also learn good practices. Especially as technology evolves, new things emerge, and we want our faculty to be prepared and ready for that. So we do that through our certification, ensuring, just like our students, we want them to know the newest information so they're best prepared. We want our faculty to know the newest information as well. And then again, the third step is that ongoing training. So Chloe and I, our department, we offer a variety of trainings. It can be workshops like this, talks. It can be classes. We develop classes for faculty. And then, of course, the certification training as well. So we put that all together to really support our faculty. But it's important to note we have a department that's dedicated to this. And so we realize that, faculty have a lot to do and don't have a lot of time to do it. So our department is there to really build the training and build the support so that you all can teach and do what you do very well. So we think about, why do we even need training? And one of the reasons why we need training is many students struggle in online classes. This is because in a lot of ways, to learn online means a student has to really be focused. They have to be very aware of deadlines and due dates. It takes a lot of self-motivation and self-drive. And as faculty, we hope to develop that in our students. We want our students to develop those skills. But it can be very challenging if a student doesn't have those skills already. So we are aware that it can be really difficult if a student doesn't already know how to do this for them to be successful in your online class. Additionally, the interaction. We're here in person, we're nodding, we're seeing each other, we can ask questions very easily because we're connecting as people. Sometimes in online, it can be challenging to connect with our students. It feels like I'm faculty here and I don't know who's on the other side of the screen. And a real emphasis of our training is, how do we build connections even though we're separated by our screens? Even though we may never meet in person, but how do we build those connections with our students? And again, those connections are really the way that help our students succeed, and it helps you feel like you actually know your students and understand their learning and understand their success. So those are the two kind of big areas that we really try to address, is how do we support students to be successful, and how do we make sure the human comes out in the connection between instructor and between student. So there are 3 essential connections that we share with our faculty. And the first is, we want students to connect with other students. Learning is a social process. We do it together, we learn from each other's ideas. And when we're designing online classes and online teaching, we want to develop opportunities for students to connect with each other. We don't want it to be just this alone experience where a student never knows their instructor and never knows who else is in the class. So we really want students to communicate with each other because it's an essential part of the learning. Some ways that you might do this in your class is our learning management system has discussions, like a discussion board. So you might pose a question and then have your students respond to each other so that they're learning to communicate with each other. They're providing feedback to each other, and their ideas are growing, but they're also learning from the ideas that other classmates are sharing. Just like in a classroom, if someone raises their hand and says something, another student might learn what someone just shared. So that's a way we do that. Group projects, bringing students together, even online. You can do that online. Create activities where the students work together, get to know each other. That's a really important way for students to build connection with one another. There are other activities here, like reading activities together, what we call icebreakers. I don't know if you use that term. It's the way to get to know each other. That's really important to start building that community, whether you're in person or online. So that could be a first assignment is maybe share a video introducing yourself, or type out, a comment introducing yourself. And then students get to know each other. They learn, oh, we're in the same major, or oh, we're living in the same dormitory. They're building the connections because they're learning, even though they're online, they're learning from each other and about one another. That's a really important aspect of learning online is the connection between the students. So next is thinking about the content. That is what it is that you want to teach and how do you want to go about teaching it. So what we really emphasize for our faculty is you might assign reading, and reading is great. We want students to read the content. But in your online class, are there opportunities to also share videos that explain the same content as the reading? Or is there something that you want students to listen to? Making sure that students have different ways of learning the material is helpful because we all learn in different ways. Some of us learn and we remember the content by reading it. Others learn very well by seeing it or hearing it. So are there pictures you can share with students that explain the ideas? Are there videos? Are there different articles and readings? It's really about making sure that students have multiple ways of accessing the learning, accessing what it is you want them to know. That's really critical for their success because not every student is a good writer. Not every student is a good reader. So we want students to also be able to express what they know in different ways. Maybe an assignment you give, maybe it's not just a paper that they turn in. Maybe do they turn in a project, a presentation? Do they give a speech and they record a speech? Those could be different ways that students demonstrate that they've learned what you want them to learn, but it allows them to demonstrate in a way that honors their strengths, honors what they're very good at, and allows them to show you, I've learned the material. Okay, and then last but not least, I mentioned this before, what we call humanizing. It's really important for you as faculty and also for students that they feel there's a connection to other humans, that it's not just a robot teaching them. The students don't want to learn from a robot, they want to learn from you. You have very good knowledge to share with them. Just like you want to know there's a student on the other side learning, not just some robot who's taking the class. And so we call that concept humanizing, which really is the most important part of a class is you, the human, the person who shows up to the class, who teaches the class, and the student who shows up and is a person and they have experiences and they want to learn and they have their own knowledge already. That's really critical for the learning to really grow. And so the way that you all can be your human selves is by being present. So the presence is not just assigning reading and posting a video and then that's it. It's feedback. It's your responding to students to let them know, I've read your work, you're doing great here, maybe try doing this again. It's the reminders that let your students know there's someone there who's really learning about them and cares about their progress along the way. So if a student is late on an assignment, sending a message, say, hi, I noticed you didn't get this assignment in. How are you doing? Is everything okay? Let's make sure we get that in. That's a way that a student knows, oh, my professor knows me, they care about me, and you're being very present in the class that way. Next is awareness, so learning about your students, giving yourself the opportunity to learn who your students are. that helps you to really understand their progress as they make their way throughout your course, but it also helps you know and understand more about them. So if you know that you have a student who maybe is an athlete and they're very busy training for their sport, so you know that about them and you have that understanding that maybe they're going to be late sometimes because they're traveling for their sport or something, but you've come to understand that. Or you have a student who works a lot. That's really important so that a student builds that trust with you that, oh, you know who I am as a person and you understand who I am, and you come to understand all of your students in that way. In our learning management system, Canvas, we're able to take little notes about each student. The students don't see it, but you might do that for yourself if your learning management system doesn't have it. With your roster of students, just a little note, like struggling, works really hard, or very busy, but just as you get to know them, so you have a sense of understanding who they are throughout the course. That's really, really helpful so that they feel like you care and like you really know who they are. And that really goes well with the last, which is empathy. We encourage our faculty to extend flexibility to students and understanding. We are all adults. Sometimes the traffic is bad and we're late, and that just happens, right? We try to be on time, but we're all adults, or we have kids and they get sick and something happens. Extending that flexibility to your students, that understanding, again, really helps build that connection, but also you're demonstrating empathy. And when you demonstrate that empathy, it actually creates a situation where students feel connected, so they want to perform well because they feel like they know you. It's maybe easier for a student who feels like, I don't know the instructor, the professor doesn't know me, I don't care about this. And maybe they cheat, or maybe they don't turn an assignment in because they don't care. But when they feel like they know you, I want to turn in good work, and I want you to see how hard I've tried. So the empathy goes a long way to help build the relationship where then students feel, I want to show you good work, I want to please you with good work, and then it helps them care about the work that they're doing themselves. So I'm going to turn it over to Chloe now, who's going to talk a bit more.
Hello, everybody. So in this next section, we want to talk about what we include in our training for faculty so that you can kind of get an idea of the different components that we really focus on for effective online courses. So the first one is modular structure. So we try to chunk material in our learning management system. So for example, week 1, week 2, week 3, so students can see the flow of their class and they know where they need to be. Also including, many students nowadays that take online classes, they're busy, they're on the go. And our learning management system, and I think Moodle as well, it works well with mobile, it's mobile friendly. So often students will be waiting for the bus and reading their course material on their phone. So we want to chunk the material so that it's not scrolling for endless length, small chunks of text, so the students can read it easily. Make sure that we include clear learning objectives so students know, okay, we're now in week 5 and this is what I'm going to learn, and it's a consistent structure. Oh, I know, I'm now 2 weeks into the class and I see the pattern. Every week we start with a video, and then we move on to the reading, and then we move on to an online discussion where I get to talk with my peers online about this content. And then I move on to a quiz to help me review the topics. And then I move on to, so it's a pattern. And every week they can see that consistent structure. We don't want to use their mental energy on trying to navigate the online world and the online platform, trying to find things like a treasure hunt. Instead of what we want them to do is be able to focus on the learning. So that's the one way we accomplish that. And then we use a lot of digital tools, like what Joy was talking about, to humanize the experience. Personalized mini video lectures. Professional videos are great. We actually have a studio room that faculty can use to create professional lectures. But we've found that videos that are just made on the go with a professor's cell phone. I'm walking in the park and they're recording themselves, and I saw this, and this reminded me, students, of what we're learning this week about this topic. And I want to tell you that I'm excited to read your post this week, and I hope you're doing great. Call me if you have questions. See you later. Short video, you put that in your course, and students feel connected. And there's so many easy ways we can do it now with our mobile phones that we can easily make these videos. So we encourage our faculty to do that. And even to use audio feedback or video feedback. So instead of typing, great job on this essay, you did well, maybe record a video. Like, hey, hi student, well done, I loved this about it, and I'm looking forward to seeing your revisions, that type of thing. The third strategy is inclusive learning and assessment. So in our training, we really emphasize the importance, as Joy was mentioning, of creating materials that work with diverse students. So some students, including, as Joy said, multiple types of learning, so that students have the option. Sometimes you could say, hey, there's 3 choices here for your exam. You can do this one, or this one, or this one, and they can choose. And then very important is regular and substantive interaction. And this is actually required legally for us to teach online, is you need to regularly connect with your students and make sure students regularly have opportunities to connect with each other. So we present to teachers ways that you can do that. Even within the grades, you can say, oh, I'm noticing I'm missing these students' assignments. I'm going to send them a quick message to check in. Or I'm going to send a quick message to all of these students that did really well. And I'm going to send them like, great job, well done, to encourage them. So those little small check-ins that don't take too much time for the instructor, but it makes a big difference for the students. So again, we're looking at building that feeling of community online. So we do that through first student-to-student interaction, student-to-instructor interaction, and that really creates that inclusive community that students, even though they're alone in their apartment, on their computer in the classroom, they feel like they're part of this classroom, or they feel like they belong there. And that helps them believe that they can do it. And it also, very important, it makes them feel comfortable to reach out to the instructor for questions. Because it's very intimidating for an online student to send a message, I don't understand, I don't know what to do. If we were in person, I might say, oh, you look like you don't understand what I'm saying. Do you have a question? But you can't, it's on the student has to reach out. So by creating that community, that allows students to have the trust that they can reach out to you and they know that you will support them. So here are some different ways that we use, different tools in the online classroom that we use to foster that interaction. So we use discussions. Have you seen discussion boards online? Are you familiar with that? Like you put a post and then with a prompt, and then students reply, okay, everyone, this is what I want you to discuss this week. And then students will reply and say, I think this, and then they can talk, like an online chat. So that's a big component that we use. Some of our classes, as we mentioned, we have different online formats. So in the asynchronous, 100% online, we offer this as an option. So sometimes we have office hours. So instructors may have a Zoom office hour that students can join. But we also have online classes that have regular Zoom, so that's a good way that they can interact. And then, as Joy was saying, personalized feedback. So making sure that we are providing that regular feedback quickly so they don't have to wait. Like, okay, it's been 2 weeks, I don't know how I did. Am I on the right track with my work? So giving them the feedback quickly so they can move on with their work.
So, as we think through how we want to engage with students, how we want to create opportunities to build a sense of community, even in an online classroom, obviously teaching online requires some technology. And when we think through what tools to use, it can be overwhelming. There's so much technology out there, and there's so much to learn. And faculty, we don't always have time to learn every new tool and every new trick. But really what it's about, in our experience, it's not about having to master and learn so many different types of tools. It's leveraging, it's using them well. And there are ways to use maybe just a few tools, but use them really well to accomplish all that you want to accomplish in your online class. So, as Chloe had mentioned, video conferencing. Some of our classes do not meet through Zoom at all, but faculty will use Zoom for, like Chloe mentioned, office hours to say, hi students, I will be available at this time on Tuesday, and you can come join me on Zoom if you have questions or if you want to talk about your upcoming assignment or talk about your papers. I'm here and I'm available. It's a tool that's available to all of our faculty. Even though that course doesn't require that you use Zoom, you can still use a tool like Zoom to connect with students. So it's really about thinking through, what do I have access to and how can I use it in a way to help students or build connection or help them succeed, even if my class doesn't require that I teach that way. Another tool is content authoring. So you all may be familiar with OER, Open Educational Resources. And even if you don't want to use OER in your classes, you actually can utilize your students to help you create content for your course. So maybe you have an activity where you ask students to research a topic, and then you collect what they find, and together they've provided and they've created resources that other students get to learn from in the future. So you can actually create the content yourself, but you can have students do that work where they're learning the content by going out and researching it, and you actually take what they find, and that is a way that you are collaborating with students, and maybe students are collaborating together to create content for the course. Other content authoring could be a video. Like Chloe mentioned, it could be a casual video with your cell phone, or it could be a very professional video. Either way, you're creating the content, and that's important because it means you're saying and you're sharing with students what you want them to learn and what you want them to know. And that's important because you are the experts in what you know, and you're creating and sharing what it is you want your students to learn from you. Next, collaborative tools. So depending on what maybe resources are available in your learning management system, or maybe other technology that you have available to you here at the university. Zoom, for example, has a whiteboard feature. So as an instructor is teaching on Zoom, they can be writing and demonstrating and sharing their screen with their students. There's also project-based learning. You may not even have a tool for that, but you could create a project where you have students working together. So instead of them taking an exam, a final exam, or writing a final paper, maybe the final activity is a project, and every student is going to create their own project. They're each going to demonstrate what they know in different ways because they're all going to be creating different projects, but it's really a way for either students to collaborate with each other, but it can also be a way that you're collaborating with your students by providing that feedback as they're developing these projects. So it's another way of thinking through how you assess what students know and what they have learned. And then last but not least is assessments, and really the continuous feedback that comes from those assessments. So we use the terms formative and summative assessments. So really providing small opportunities for students to demonstrate their learning, but also go back and maybe revise. So maybe it's a paper and you have them turn in a rough draft, and you provide feedback, and then they come back and they work on it again and they improve it again. There's the constant feedback that's happening. You as the instructor get to learn, oh, okay, I understand what they know. They're missing a little bit here, so I'm providing feedback for where they can improve. And then they get to demonstrate again, I've done more research, I've done more reading, and now I've improved this part of my work. So it's a continuous process where you're providing your expertise and the student is giving work back, and they're learning from your expertise. And so it's that constant process where the student keeps learning, and as the faculty, as the instructor, you are understanding what does my student know and what do they need to work on so that they know what I want them to know. So this has a lot of words. I'll just summarize. So when we think about how do we meet the needs of our students, we talked about students learn in different ways, just like we learn in different ways. We want to think through how do we meet them in a way that works well for them and also allows you to understand what it is that they know. So when we think about accessibility, again, designing the course so that a student isn't trying to figure out what to do and where to go, but a clear and consistent pattern so that a student can focus on the reading, the learning, and demonstrating what they learn. Because there's a lot of energy that students will actually spend if they're trying to figure out, where's my quiz, what do I do, when is it due, what do I read, where are we in the class? There's a lot of energy that goes into that. So that consistency actually helps students make sure they can access what it is that you want them to learn and to know every week or every part of the class. Providing resources for students. So your university, you might have support resources. Ruth was explaining to us there's a computer lab that's 24 hours where students can go access a computer lab and they can print what they need. That's a really great resource that maybe the students don't know is there. We saw your beautiful library. Maybe they don't know to go there for some of their research when you assign them an activity. So as you're in the course, thinking through, maybe I should mention, for this activity, you might find it helpful to go to the library to look up some resources. Or for this activity, if you need a computer, you might want to go to the 24-hour computer lab so that you have access to computers or printing. You give them worksheets. You can go to the computer lab and print out those worksheets. That's really helpful so that students aren't trying to figure out how do I do the assignment or where do I go. You're guiding them, but you're not giving them the answer. You're providing them what support maybe is already here at the university or online so that they can be successful in your course and in the assignment. Culturally responsive approaches, really what that is, we talked about getting to know each student. So that really is getting to know them and honor the fact that they come to your class with some knowledge. They may not know your discipline. They may not be an expert in calculus yet, but they come with some experiences that maybe you can relate the learning to something that's going on in the community or in their world so that there's a connection there between what they know and what they're learning and the real world around them. So that's really, really important. And then the last concept is universal design for learning. Really what that is it's providing students multiple ways of accessing the learning material. So I had shared before, maybe you're providing readings and videos and pictures, but it's also providing students multiple means of demonstrating their learning. So maybe you give them a choice. You can take an exam, you can write a paper, or you can give a speech, record a speech. Those could be 3 different ways where students are demonstrating what they know. Some of us might be really good at tests, so we'll say, okay, I'll take the exam. Others might be very bad at tests and say, oh no, I don't want to take an exam, but I'm very good at speaking, so I will give a speech. And others will say, oh, I'm too shy to talk, but I'll type something really well. So it's allowing students to demonstrate what they know, but in the ways that they feel good about. So really, you can truly see what it is that they know. If someone is not a very good writer, you may not really understand what they've learned if they can't communicate it well in writing. So it may not be actually a good way for you to know if they learn the concept, but maybe they're very good at taking tests, and that's a way for you to learn, oh, they know all the concepts very well. So that universal design is how do we share things in lots of ways, and how do we allow students to share their learning in different ways. So we can share this resource with you. It's a checklist that we created at our college, And what the checklist does is a faculty member can use it to kind of guide as they're designing their online course. They can it guides them through, is my content presented in a way that's clear? Is it organized in a consistent way? And it literally, you can check it off and say, oh yes, okay, I've done that. Or, ooh, no, okay, I need to work on that, and then I can check that off for myself. So it's not used to evaluate our faculty. It's really a resource for them so that they can be working through their course as they're designing it to say, did I provide enough opportunities for my students to interact? Do I have a plan as the faculty for how I'm going to interact with my students this week? So it can almost like you prepare a lesson plan for in-person teaching. It's like almost a lesson plan, but for your whole online course. So we will be very happy to share that resource and the slides with you because it links to the checklist. But please feel free to use it if you find that it's helpful. But really it's a guide. Sometimes we will sit with faculty and review it with them while we're looking at their course. But other times faculty will use it on their own before they're preparing a course to say, have I done these well, or am I using some of those effective practices in my online design? Because it's a lot to try to design and think through how do you move your in-person course to online. So that's a resource, and that might be something you all consider developing for yourselves. You know, it's openly licensed, so you can always modify it in a way that works for this university and for all of you. So maybe this checklist doesn't quite work for what you all need, but you might consider creating something like that so that anytime any of you go teach an online course, you have a way of making sure you're kind of doing the things that you want to do to build an effective course. Also, we wanted to share that with online teaching and learning, there's always room for improvement, and it's okay to try something new in your online course. We tell our faculty, try it. It may not work, but that means next semester you just try something different or you fix it. But to not be afraid as the faculty member to try something, because we're always learning and we're always growing, and the technology that teaching online, it allows us to be creative, to have some fun and to do maybe different things than we would do maybe in our face-to-face classes. So really one way that you can, or some of the ways that you can think about how you can improve your teaching and learning is ask your students. Regular feedback from your students can really help you. They might say, this assignment was really great, but I was a little confused by the instructions. That's great for you to learn as a faculty, because then you can say, oh, okay, the assignment was good, the work that the students created was great, but I need to better explain what I want them to do. That's a great way to learn. You might have feedback that says, I didn't really understand this, and then you say, okay, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to try something new this semester. So hearing from students can actually be really helpful because you're seeing the work that they produce, but you're also hearing from them, was anything confusing? Was anything difficult? Did you like something? And you say, let's do it again. So hearing from them can really be a helpful way for you to learn what's going well and what maybe do I need to improve. Performance analytics. So we look a lot at the data for our students. We look at how students are succeeding in their online classes. So for us, success is like a passing grade, an A, B, C, or a pass in a course. We don't just want to offer online courses if it means students are not doing well in them, right? That's not good for students, and it's not a good experience for you as faculty. So looking at the data to understand, in this math course, students do really well in the online classes where we meet on Zoom, but maybe they don't do well when we don't meet on Zoom. Maybe we don't teach it that way. Maybe we teach it in the way where we're meeting on Zoom. So we're looking at the data to tell us, is this working well for our students? And we're looking at the data to say, is this working well for how I'm teaching it? So that's really, really important. It also can help reveal areas of opportunity. So there have been some subjects, disciplines at College of the Canyons that said, oh, no, we don't want to teach online. We look at the data and we say, well, your students are doing better when online classes than they are in face-to-face classes. And then they say, oh, okay, I guess we need to start teaching more online because students are actually doing better in those classes. So it can be a way as a university or as a department, you can think through, are we doing the right thing for students? Are we helping our students be successful? And maybe online or a combination of online and in-person works together well to help students succeed. Peer review. Our faculty have really enjoyed learning from each other. So creating opportunities where maybe all of you in this room sit together and share, this is what I tried in my class and it worked really well. And then someone else says, wow, that's a great idea. I never thought to try that. I'm going to try that. Here's what I'm doing in my course. Or even asking a question, I'm really struggling with this. Is anyone else struggling? And you're asking other faculty peers. So much learning happens from each other and learning from each other's experiences that the peer review can be really helpful where someone can share, I see you're doing this, maybe try it this way. Or I'm struggling with this, has anyone had success? And someone else shares something, and that's a way that we can continue to learn from each other. But it also helps as a university, all of us do better, right? We all teach better when we're learning from each other and how to do that well. And then lastly is just that continuous reflection. So not being afraid, again, to think about what worked very well in my online class and what do I want to try to improve. And not being afraid, you don't have to make big improvements every semester or every time you teach, but just take one small thing and try to change it to make it better. And over time, you'll have a course that you feel, wow, okay, I'm very proud of this. I've worked really hard and I've made the changes that I think are really good for my students. So, we want students to be reflecting on their learning, but as faculty, we have to reflect too and think about what's working well and what can I do to learn more or to do better next time. So some resources, again, at the very beginning I was sharing that we very much, Chloe and I understand that teaching online is very difficult. It's not easy for faculty and it requires a lot of effort. And so our department, again, we have a dedicated department to support faculty with teaching online. And we really try to think through how do we make it as easy as possible for faculty to begin teaching online? And how do we support them once they've started so they can continuously improve? So some strategies that we have developed are like this, talks through Zoom or in person, where some of it is us leading a discussion. Other times we're sitting here and we're just letting the faculty talk and learn from each other. But having those dedicated times to be working together, we have found to be really helpful. And then it helps build the trust to continue learning and asking questions in the future. We also have developed training, as we mentioned, for our learning management system, how to develop content that's accessible. Many faculty don't know that they should have captions on a video or why they should have captions on a video. So helping explain the why is really important for faculty. We've started something new recently, which we call it Tip of the Week. They're an email that we send out to faculty every week, and they include a short video, maybe 1 to 2 minutes, with just a quick tip to share with faculty about teaching online. Some might already know the tip, but for some it might be something new. So it's, again, those little ways to just learn something new. So it's not this big task of, oh my goodness, how am I going to teach online? But we just share like one little strategy. Hi, did you know you could provide feedback to your students through video or through audio? And then faculty say, oh, it saved me so much time from having to type a response to every student, and now they feel like they know me better because they saw me or they heard from me. So we just send little videos with tips. We found that that's really helpful for just sharing a little bit of information at a time, and then faculty can learn from that information as it helps them. And the last is just an example of a series of workshops. So maybe if there's a theme that you all want to learn more about or discuss, maybe having a series of workshops based on that topic so that faculty can come and learn through that series of workshops to really support the university with accomplishing a goal or moving online teaching forward in a way that supports all of you. Some other resources that we have developed are what we call template courses. The intention behind a template course is if all of you are teaching online for the first time, you all don't have to struggle with creating an online course for the first time on your own. We have developed some almost like mock courses, template courses, where then if you choose, a faculty member can use it and then they say, oh, this is where I put my readings for the week. Oh, this is where I enter my video for the week. We have found that that really helps, especially for new faculty who are learning to teach online. So they don't have to struggle with how to create an online course themselves. We found that templates can be really, really helpful so that that first difficult part of learning how to create the course is already ready. And even if you don't have templates, maybe some of you are very experienced teaching online. If you feel comfortable, maybe sharing your course with the other faculty in your discipline might help them learn from how you're teaching online. And it can be a starting point for them so they don't have to start from the very beginning. So any way that you can be sharing those materials, we have found to be very, very helpful, especially when you're first learning to teach online. And then lastly, we just have other resources. You know, Chloe and I are only in the office so much, but our faculty might have questions in the middle of the night. So we've created resources so that they can get some questions answered, no matter where they are, no matter where we are. So we have found that as a team, as a department, trying to create as many resources as possible to support faculty has been helpful as they're designing their online teaching and learning courses. So we talked a lot. Hopefully you learned some things. You know, really at the end of the day, it's about empowering all of you to try and use strategies that you feel comfortable trying and using. It might look different from someone else's course, but it's about really being thoughtful about how we design our courses, and then feeling brave to maybe try something so that you can best communicate what you know with your students. Because at the end of the day, it's all of you. You are the reason your students are here. You are the reason that students want to learn. It's from what you know. It's your knowledge that you share. And so it's thinking through, how do I share that knowledge in a way that students can understand it and that students can receive it online? So hopefully some of these strategies have been helpful, but we want to open it up for questions in case anyone has questions or ideas maybe that you want to share with us.
John and Chloe, I think that I learned a lot today. Actually, there are a lot of strategies actually, like when we design our online courses, how we kind of like try to pay attention to our students and how to build up the sense of communities among us and the students. I have one question about, like, you talk about the high flex. I think that's the most difficult part.
Yes.
I think it's more difficult than the pure online or like hybrid classes.
Yes.
So do you have some like tips like how we can manage a good high flex courses?
Yes.
Well, I don't want to speak for Chloe, but we agree. High flex is definitely the most difficult, I think, to teach. When we train our faculty, we have them really plan every class lesson, because you have to be preparing activities for the in-person class and activities for online. So if you're going to lecture, maybe you're going to share a PowerPoint and lecture for 10 minutes, all the students can see the lecture online and here in person. And then maybe you pause and say, okay, pair up and talk about, do an activity based on what we just learned. Well, you have to prepare that ahead of time for the students who are online. So some ways are maybe sharing like a Google document or some document where students who are online can go into breakout rooms, or they can be typing on a shared document together. So that way the students online are doing a similar activity to what the students in person are doing. It can be very difficult to manage that, but really what we have found is it takes a lot of preparation. So as you're preparing for what you're going to do in person, you have to be preparing for what am I going to do with the online students during that time. We've found that if you can break them out, the students online, into breakout rooms, that can be helpful during discussion times, or any sort of like collaborative document where maybe in person they're filling out a worksheet, but maybe online they're filling out that same worksheet but on a collaborative document. So that way the students online don't feel like they're being ignored, because also they may not pay attention if they're not really being engaged with you. But it's definitely challenging. I don't know, Chloe, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would agree. It's anytime you're using technology, it takes more effort to plan ahead. So thinking through, this is an in-person class, it's easy to kind of wing it, where you're like, oh, okay, never mind, we're going to do something different. You guys look bored, let's change the plan. But when you have students online, you have to be thinking ahead. Okay, I know I want to do this activity, so I'm going to plan. And we provide a template which we can share with you for a lesson plan for a high flex classroom where you, and we also, another strategy we try to encourage instructors to use when they're teaching with Zoom or high flex is to keep lectures short. So giving opportunities for active learning. So you start with, okay, 10 minutes of lecture, and you plan it in your lesson plan. My first 10 minutes, I'm going to talk about this. And you have to think through all the technology. Mm-hmm. I'm going to share my Zoom presentation online and in person. Then after those 10 minutes, we're going to do active learning. So maybe I'll do a quiz or something to help do the students understand. Some instructors will find a student that's very tech savvy. They understand how to use technology, and maybe they'll volunteer to be a helper to monitor the Zoom chat, for example. Some universities will have a teaching assistant, which is very nice, but at our college we don't have teaching assistants. So sometimes we'll get the student to help, a volunteer to help monitor the chat. Oh, professor, there's questions in the chat. But writing it all out, this is my plan for the next 10 minutes of lecture, then I'm going to do active learning. This is what I'm doing in class, this is what I'm going to do online. I'm going to share a Zoom link. So you have to plan ahead. Mm-hmm. And the nice thing is that it's a lot of work up front, but then the next semester it's prepared and you can make small changes, but you already have it ready.
Sure, yes.
One other thing I wanted to share about the training that I think is very helpful is when our instructors earn that online instructor certificate, a part of that is they are a student in an online class. So they get to experience, they have to do a group project, they have to be an online student. And so they get to struggle a little and see how difficult it can be to learn online. And it helps them think through their own online classes and develop the empathy for students to understand, oh, this is hard. I found it made it very easy, these type of instructions, or I found this was very challenging, so I'm going to try to think about that when I make my class. So having that opportunity to feel like I understand what students go through in the online class is helpful.
So I'm also curious about the online teaching certificate, like what kind of courses that you offer and how long will it take for the certificate?
So the certificate consists of a training on the learning management system and accessibility. That's about
asynchronous?
That one is self-paced.
Oh, self-paced. Oh.
It's about 5 hours it takes faculty. We have teaching, and then they demonstrate that they can build and create things in the learning management system. That's the first part, that's 5 hours. The second training is the pedagogy, like the how to teach online and those strategies and those effective practices for teaching online. And that course is online, asynchronous. It's facilitated by an instructor over 5 weeks, and it's about 36 hours or so total. So on the whole, when they earn their certificate, they've put in over 40 hours into earning their certificate, and then every 3 years they recertify, and that's about a 2-hour self-paced.
Very solid.
Yeah, yes, but we've developed more training as like teaching with Zoom. We had to develop a new course because our other course was asynchronous. It didn't talk about how to teach on Zoom or HyFlex, so we've developed more trainings to address those. But yes, we try to develop a robust training so that faculty really, they feel empowered, but also that they know what it is that they need to do so they can be successful when they teach. Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.